Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, we'll be learning about the Docker containers. So I'll start with what are the Docker containers and their little bit technical side so that before moving to the practical examples, we have enough theoretical knowledge about it. Okay. So Docker containers are the bundle of all the necessary dependencies and the configuration to run an application. So like in the previous video, I told you कि this is a Docker container and it contains all the necessary information regarding that particular application to which we need to run. Okay. Next, they are immutable, read-only, and platform-dependent. Okay. The third part is Docker containers are stored in multiple ways. So one is container registry, container repositories. The second part is private repository. So it is more of a on a company level, organizational level, and the third is a public repository. So to check for all the images of the Docker, you can go to the Docker hub. So public repo is Docker hub. Okay. So next, moving on to, I'll give you a brief scenario of what happens before containers, before Docker was introduced and after the Docker was introduced. Okay. So for before, if I had 10 developers in my team, okay, and I had Python to install, then I had SQL to install, and I had less Nginx to install. Okay. So what happens is कि for all these 10 developers, we had different system. Okay. System 1, system 2, and system 3. Let's suppose, and up to 10. Okay. So we had to install all these three things individually to all the systems. Okay. Which was quite of a tedious task. Okay. So what were the disadvantages of this? So it was a tedious task. Okay. Sometimes there were dependencies issues. Okay. So what happened is कि this particular scenario reduced the, what I can say, productivity of the team, as well as it took a lot of time to install everything and install it like correctly so that there are no issues in your local environment. Okay. But what happened after the Docker was introduced? Okay. So what Docker did is they created a container, okay, where there was configuration of all the files, Python, Nginx, what else, SQL, and then it also contained the configurations and system setup files, okay, setup files, okay. And what happened is we just need to have this file installed in all our 10 systems. Okay. So 1 2 3 and 10. So what we did is we just use this file and just ran one command, and all these dependencies were installed in all these files, which you know was very easier to do. So it increased the productivity, it reduced the development time as well, and it also enhanced the like delivery in the production level. Okay, delivery of the code in the production. Okay, so this is what Docker did after it was introduced. Yeah, next, let's talk about how the container works. So, for a container to build, there are multiple layers. Okay, so for this, the base image is always the layer, Linux based layer, mostly Alpine. It is used to keep the size of the container small. Like actually, this is responsible for the small size of the containers. Okay, then there are multiple others layers, and on the top sits the application layer. So your application layer can be anything like Python, Nginx, Alpine, sorry, not Alpine, Okay. Python, Nginx, SQL. Okay, any of these images. So this built a container. This is how the container looks. So wherever you will be pulling an image, so and after you can see that there will be a list of images that are being downloaded. So all those images consist build a container when you run that particular image. Okay. Oh yeah, so I have written it over here. The public repository is the Docker Hub. uh, Now actually we have some time, so we can talk about the Docker versus virtual machines as well. So what actually is our machine like, right? So there are three layers. One is hardware layer, which is our CPU. Then the layer above it is OS kernel layer, and there is an application layer. So OS kernel layer communicates with our hardware layer, and the application layers communicates with the OS kernel layer. Okay? And it runs on the top of all the layers. So yeah. So what are the Docker and virtual machine really do? So they are the virtualization tools to provide a virtual interface to work on your system. So as I mentioned over here, this is your system, right? This is the original, like I will not say the original. This is the tasks that are currently on your system, but you instead you don't want to disturb any of these tasks, but also run a simultaneous other task, not the task, like other environment in your system. So this is the environment. So it can be either Docker or the virtual machine environment. Okay. So this will not communicate with this, and vice versa. They will not communicate with each other. They will be a separate entities in your system. Okay. Uh, yeah. So like how the virtualization really works in the Docker and the virtual machine. Okay. So as I told, there are three layers that our system consists of. One is hardware layer, one is OS kernel, and one is application layer. Okay. So our Docker only works with the application layer, right? And the virtual machine works with both of the application layer and the OS kernel layer. Okay. So to be more precise, the virtual machines consist of their own OS kernel layer. They have the application layer and they also have the OS kernel layer. Okay. So key differences between both the Docker and virtual machine. So Docker is size is small, okay, as it only contains the application layer. Okay. For the virtual machine, size is comparatively larger because it contains OS kernel layer as well as application layer. Okay. For the Docker, execution is faster. It is more about the startup and the runtime. Okay, so when you are first starting your Docker container, so the execution is very fast. Not first time, actually, whenever you start your Docker container, the execution is very fast because the size is very small and it only works with the application layer. But for the virtual machines, execution is little bit slow because it has to set up the OS kernel layer first, and then it sets up the application layer because it consists of both the application and OS kernel layers. Okay. Then our Docker is very much OS dependent because it only has the application layer, and the application layer needs to communicate with the OS. So if I have a image that can only work on Linux, I cannot use it to on our Windows system as well. It will not work, and it will actually not even install. Okay. But in the case of virtual machine, we can install any virtual machine in any of the system. So in my Windows, I can use any of the other operating systems such as Ubuntu, Kali, and many other operating systems. So we can use one very good example of a virtual machine is our Oracle VM. Okay. Uh, Oracle VM. So this is a very good example of a virtual machine. Uh, yeah, so that's it. That's the theory about the uh, Docker versus virtual machines. Next, we can talk about the Docker commands. So this will be a very short lectures. So yeah, till then have a very nice day. And if you like my video or have any suggestions, please do mention them in the comments so I can resolve any issues. Okay, and yeah, please do subscribe to my channel as well and share it with your friends. Till I bring the next video, have a very nice day, and yeah, bye.